Hola everyone, and welcome to another Q&A. This one is going to be mostly about Argentina, but a couple other cool questions in there. First question is my favorite one. Nurmash asks, is Argentine beef really that good? And compared to beef in Ukraine or America, for example. So first off, America actually has the best tasting regular beef because it's very fatty. It's grain-fed mostly, which is not very healthy for you, but it makes the cows very fatty. And if you like juicy, fatty steaks, American beef, excellent. That's why we have great burgers, and in general, we have great beef. But Argentina's it's another higher level. In Ukraine, the cows are kind of slim. The beef's okay, but here and in Thailand, where I also spend a lot of time, if you want a good steak, you'll get a New Zealand or lamb, or you get Australian beef. It's just kind of the standard. If you want a really, really good quality one, you get something imported. In the US, we don't really need to import steaks. I guess you can get a Wagyu or something, but now we have American Wagyu. But in Argentina, what's really good about it is the lowest cut steaks, the cheapest possible cut of beef, which is the most common. It's called chorizo de bife. It is already really good. It's really fat and thick. Somebody even described it as being cartoonish because it's so big. And they can cook that and make it juicy and delicious because all Argentine cows are grass-fed. They are unfortunately grain finished to kind of fatten them up at the very end. And by grain, I mean like corn or soy, things like that. But the quality is so good, and they cook it in a very special way where they cook it on coal. And they, no matter how you order it, like they always ask, like, how do you want it done? You know, like medium, medium well, medium rare. They always kind of just come out exactly the same, where it's charred on the top and bottom, and the middle is just like slightly pink or slightly red. And it's hard to make that thick of a steak that juicy. So really good job, Argentina. That's why it's good. Not because it's better than like A5 Wagyu or something. It's just the fact that all steaks you'll get from a cheap parisa, whatever they call it, on the corner, to a really high-end steakhouse, all the steaks will be really delicious. Even this cheap cut, which is the chorizo de bife, which literally means the same beef that they would use to make a chorizo sausage, which is a cheap cut of meat. Guys, look at this beautiful steak. Oh my god. Alright, bon appetit guys, bon provecho. Jay says, I heard Argentina was very cheap, but it seems like Western prices now. But especially when you had that steak and other things, I guess it's not cheap with inflation. Unfortunately, inflation in 2024 has been 300% so far. So in the US, when we complain about 8% inflation, imagine it being 300%. So this right here, it's 270 Argentinian dollars, or pesos, whatever you want to call it. And a year or two ago, this would buy you a meal. This can actually buy you a steak. Unfortunately, now, this is worth the equivalent about 10 cents US, or that's a penny. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. That's why when you saw me paying with the 1,000 peso notes, that was actually the biggest bill that they had for a long time. Unfortunately, when I arrived in September 2024, the currency was so devalued that each one of those was only worth about $1 US, which means that big stack of money, that was about $100. And since there's high inflation and things aren't that cheap anymore, when you go out, you need to bring $100 with you if you want to have a nice steak dinner, you know, lots of drinks out, you know, especially with friends. You know, most nights we would spend maximum $40, $50, but you know what? If you're out for lunch and you're out for dinner, you might end up needing $100. Now, that being said, fortunately, as Americans or anyone with US dollars, it's still cheap enough because we get a good exchange rate where we can afford to have a really nice meal, great wine. Argentina has amazing wine, great steaks. And it depends on where you go. The most expensive place I went is called Fogon. That was a 9-course steak tasting menu. And this was $88 without wine. So with wine, another $20, so like $110. It's expensive. That's the most expensive place there is. That and Don Julio, about the same price. But you can also go to these kind of neighborhood pasalis, I don't know how to say it, but the neighborhood grills, the ones on the corner, and you can have a nice steak with like, fries or salad and a glass of wine for less than $20. So it depends on where you want to go, what your budget is. But the nice thing about Argentina and Buenos Aires is even those places on the corner, it's still a really good quality steak. So you have a really nice meal. Unfortunately, wherever you go out to eat, it doesn't matter if you're having burgers, if you're having, a salad, if you're having just like, I had Peruvian food one night. Every meal you go out at a nice restaurant, it's gonna be 15, 20 bucks. That is what it is. It's still cheaper than a big city in the US. But now it's probably the equivalent of going out in Madrid, maybe even Barcelona, a lot of, other places in the world. This is another good time to answer the question, can you use credit cards? Do you use cash? This is a bit complicated, but the official rate, if you just Google it, might be right now $1 to 970 pesos. So let's say 1 to 1,000. But if you exchange $100 bills, US $100 bills, you can get it about 30% higher. So right now it's about 1,210 or something. So 30% higher. If you use cash, the only problem with that is until very recently, the biggest bill was 1,000. Now, kind of at the middle of my trip, they introduced the 10,000 notes. Now that's worth about $10. It makes it a lot easier. But not everywhere has that yet. So a lot of times people just give you stacks of the hundreds. Gracias. Wow. What Argentina has done that's been very smart is they've now made credit cards issued by foreign banks, so any bank outside of Argentina. Now you get something called a tourist rate, which isn't quite the really, really good blue dollar, the underground currency rate, but it's not the official rate either. So it'd be somewhere in between. So you might be getting 10% better than the official rate, but you might be getting 10% worse than what you could if you exchange cash. So my suggestion is go there with $100 crisp, blue $100 bills, find a currency, exchange, make sure it's pretty close to the rate. I just used a 1-year Palermo. You can also go to Western Union and send yourself money, and then you can get something very close to the blue dollar rate. But if you're just there for a few days, or if you don't want to deal with any of this, I actually met a lot of tourists, especially at Fogon, that nice restaurant. People are just there for a few days, people on a business trip. They don't want to think about it. They just put it on their credit card and they're like, you know what, it's close enough. Let me not try to, save another 10%. It's anyway so much cheaper than living in Australia or living in San Francisco or New York. So let me just enjoy myself, not think about it, not deal with this cash. Brittany asks, Johnny, in your opinion, what is the best thing that Argentina has going for itself to attract digital nomads? What is one thing that they need to improve on to attract more digital nomads? Actually, fun enough, I just filled out a long, not a survey, but some kind of questionnaire by Visit Buenos Aires. They really want to know. They're like, what can we improve on? What can we do better? I also had a meeting with one of the government officials from Buenos Aires, as well as the people in charge of designing the digital nomad visa. Shout out to CSM. And that's one thing that they're doing really well, is they actually care. They actually want to hear from digital nomads. This is why they invited me out. This is why they invited Valera out, who, we're both very kind of OG, old school digital nomads and have been to many, many countries. I think both of us have been to over 50 countries, or at least I have, and worked for many places. So number one, the fact that they're actually taking steps and they care, that's a huge, huge bonus. Second, I would say the weather and just kind of where they are geographically in the world, it's perfect if you don't like winter and you want to just avoid winter and you want to stay, let's say you love where you live or you love being in in the US or in Europe during normal summer, but you just want to avoid winter. If you come down to Argentina, because it's literally the other side of the world, kind of like on Australia, you get the other season. So you get summer starting right now. So if you want to have summer from, let's say, October to, March or something, you can do it in Buenos Aires. And unlike Australia, it's much, much cheaper. They have better infrastructure, they have better internet. I was actually surprised how good the Wi-Fi was in all the places I went, coffee shops. I was staying kind of near the Palermo district, which is kind of the center hipster district. So maybe if you're really, far in a village or something, it might be different. But in general, I've always had really good Wi-Fi speeds. Unfortunately, it was not sequential. So you might get 200 down, but you might only get 30 or 40 up, which is still fast enough to do everything. So it didn't affect me, but it would be nice if that was sequential. The biggest downsides right now, they made a new rule where people need to register to get a SIM card. You can't just buy it over the counter anymore. But foreigners or tourists, we don't have that ability. So the only possible way to get it now is you need to go to a kiosk, buy a temporary SIM card, what they call a chip, and that will only have 200 megabytes on it, and you use that 200 megabytes to then register online, and then you can get a card. But it's a lot of trouble. Most people aren't going to go through that effort, and that's why I just use the eSIM. This would be a great spot for an eSIM sponsor, but unfortunately, none of them got back to me. But if you want to use one of the eSIM companies I use, I'll have a link down below. It was about $6 per gigabyte, which is pretty expensive if you're uploading a lot, but everywhere had Wi-Fi anyways. It was annoying to have to ask for the Wi-Fi every time I went to a restaurant or a cafe instead of just using my phone. But hopefully that changes soon. That's one thing. Second is they have a lot of cool services like the rental bikes that we had, the EcoBiki. It's a really good way to get around. The city's flat. It's very walkable, and you can bicycle everywhere. And for locals, it's fantastic because it's free. You can use it for up to an hour at a time. As long as you put it back in the station, they're completely free. But as a foreigner, it was a pain in the butt to register. There's all these problems in their app. But these are things that they also asked about. They want us to basically test it and see how it is and give them feedback. So hopefully by the time this, you get there, all these things would have been fixed and addressed. And most importantly, besides the infrastructure that Buenos Aires has, the good food and restaurants and bars and all that stuff, they have a growing community. There's now, maybe 1 or 2 meetups per week for digital nomads. Unfortunately, both of them were on a Wednesday this time, so only we go to one. Hopefully they can coordinate better in the future. And then there's also meetups for Spanish-speaking clubs or Spanish-English exchanges, travelers, things like that. So it's a nice city to meet people. The only reason why it's not for me is everything starts late. Dinner starts late. The bar scene starts late. So if you like sleeping early like Grandpa Johnny, then Latin America in general is not for you. Jose Sinok says, as an Argentine myself, I'll ask you a very important question. Mate, sweet or bitter? I hope someone gave you a mate kit as a gift you take home. Well, I did get a mate kit. Thank you, CSM. These are the consultants that helped with the digital nomad visa. And I really like the straw. This is my favorite color, this Tiffany blue. And the way the straw works, it has this little spring on the bottom so you don't sip up the mate. Unfortunately, I didn't bring that many leaves back with me, so I couldn't pack this full like I do normally. But honestly, I kind of like it a little bit more diluted because I don't like adding sugar to my tea, so I always drink it bitter. But when I pack it full, especially for one person, it's just too much mate. It's really designed to share, and the second gets too bitter. So I kind of like this frugal mate tea, Johnny, where I just use a lot less of it because it's less bitter. Nicholas asks, when do I open a restaurant featuring my favorite dishes? That would be cool, right? Imagine I had a restaurant that was just my favorite, 10 or 20 dishes from around the world, from different cuisines, different type of Mexican food, Thai food, the Argentine steak. The problem is, first off, a restaurant that serves a bunch of different stuff is not going to be good at anything. And then second, I don't want to ever run a restaurant. It's so hard, it's so stressful, ties you down in one location. I would love to help someone open a Mexican restaurant in Kyiv. just because that's the one thing I miss there. But in general, no, like opening a restaurant is so much work. It's not for me. I'd rather just go and eat at good restaurants. Zombie Chihuahua says, have you ever thought about coming to Hawaii and exploring the islands? I've actually been to Hawaii twice. I like it. It's beautiful. If it wasn't so expensive, I would probably just live in Hawaii. Like, to be honest, you know, it's part of the U.S. You have all the comforts of being in the U.S. You have Walmart, you have Costco, but it's so freaking expensive. Like for everything, cost. You know, the housing's expensive, food's expensive. You know, a car's expensive. Flying, you know, back into the U.S. is expensive. And to be honest, it's not any nicer than the islands in Thailand or in Sri Lanka. You know, I think we always think of Hawaii as this, you know, magical, beautiful place, and it is. But there's other magical, beautiful places in the world. They're like a third of the price. So, unfortunately, you know, I don't have a reason to be in Hawaii. And also, when I'm there, I'll kind of be stuck there because it'd be hard to travel from there. So, love you, Hawaii. Aloha, much aloha. But, you know, unless I retire there and I just happen to have, you know, a place to live, there's other places in the world I'd rather be. West Coast girls, would you ever travel to India? No, absolutely not. Especially after seeing the last bald video of how chaotic it is and how many people are there. I can't stand having that many people. It's dirty, it's loud. It's not for me. Trine asks, would I ever do a mukbang channel? This already is a mukbang channel for those who don't know. So mukbang channel, if you guys don't know, is a channel where you eat food, but you just really enjoy it. Honestly, I kind of cut out some of the me eating because some people were complaining about it. I think some people actually have some kind of like, I don't know what the word would be, but you know how like I don't like the sound of like styrofoam, for example. So I think some people don't like seeing other people eat. They don't like seeing other people chew. Meanwhile, Train actually had a really nice comment saying that she really enjoys watching me eat and enjoy myself because she has, unfortunately, an illness that prevents her from eating. So when she sees me traveling, eating, enjoying myself, she's doing it vicariously, you know, through me and really enjoying it. So this is why you should never, you know, listen to like the negative comments and haters out there because they have the loudest voices. And at the end of the day, I don't tell people not to use styrofoam, you know, except for like environmental reasons. Because I know most people, they don't mind the sound. But for me, I really hate it. It's like a chalkboard sound. But I know it's just me, so I try to avoid it. But I'm not going to tell someone like, hey, man, like, stop eating at Sonic because, you know, I don't like it. Ron's, because you're a roaming nomad, what do you think about health insurance when you travel from country to country? This would actually be a great place for a sponsorship as well, but unfortunately we don't have one. Personally, the only country that I actually worry about for health insurance is when I visit the US. Because when I go back home, I know if I got sick, if I got into an accident, I'm screwed. Like I can literally lose my life savings if something bad happened there. So my kind of plan whenever I do visit home is to stay there for less than a month. And that way I hope that whatever credit card I used will cover this as like a trip because legally I live in Texas, you know, so because I'm not there very often, like if I'm visiting parents in San Francisco or something, then I hope that my travel insurance from the credit card kicks in for an emergency. I also had Dan scuba diving insurance that I added like the premium to that covered me for also, you know, travel medical. I would actually get another, you know, actual like nomad type insurance, but I live in countries normally that are so cheap to just go to a doctor and pay out of pocket that I'm basically self-insuring. So instead of paying like $300-400 or even $200 a month to a service, you know, I just invest that and then knock on wood. But if I ever need to, I can spend $5,000-6,000 out of my pocket to go to a hospital, go to a doctor. Places like Thailand, Ukraine, even I was in South Africa and I tore the calf muscle, had to go to the ER. And that was only like a couple $100. So most places in the world, it's cheap enough where you can just self-insure, but when I'm in the US, knock on wood, but I gotta be extra careful. But there are some, good nomad insurance companies that my friends use that they've actually paid out claims on. So I'll have a link to them in the description below if you want to check them out. I actually used to be a customer, but then my premiums went up when I turned, I don't know, 37 or something like that. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stop. I'm just gonna risk it. On that topic, WK says, are your current endeavors, investment portfolio, and savings sufficient enough to last you the rest of your life, Johnny? I'm definitely not like, balling out multimillionaire, except for maybe in Argentina. But then again, it doesn't go that far there. But if Russia wasn't invading Ukraine and I was living 6 months of the year in Ukraine and 6 months of the year in Thailand, which was my original plan, and I kept my budget low, I was spending like $1,500 a month or less, I actually technically would be retired and I wouldn't need to work again. But with things being uncertain and also just not knowing where I'm going to be living, I try not to dip into my savings. I try not to actually dip into my investment portfolio, which is mostly retirement funds anyways, and I can't touch that until I'm like 55 or 57. So for now, I just try to live off of whatever I make from YouTube, from the podcast, Invest Like a Boss, that I co-host, and a couple other random income sources from my old passive income days. PR asks, how much do I actually make per month? It's hard to answer because every month changes, but I would say anywhere between like $2,000 to $3,000 a month. So, I'm not making a ton of money, but, for living in lower cost countries, I'm able to travel, I'm able to go out to restaurants, I'm able to enjoy myself. This is a conscious decision that I made where I knew this was kind of where I would be comfortable at. It was a study done where they found out that after a certain amount, it doesn't make you any happier. And in the US and other kind of more expensive places, that amount was about $70,000. I think actually the range was like 50 to 70. With inflation, everything changes, but the easy way to think of it is if you could afford to buy a brand new Toyota Camry or the equivalent, every 5 or 7 years or something like that, and you could afford to live in a, normal size house, not a luxury place, but a clean, normal place, and have like, 2 or 3 bedrooms, nothing on top of that would actually make you any happier without sacrificing stress or losing time. So for most people, if you think about it, having anything better than a Toyota Camry or even a Corolla, it's really just for luxury. It's for status. It's, you could say it might be for fun or it might be for good looks. But really, if you just wanted to get from point A to point B and you never wanted the car to break, you want it to be comfortable enough, you don't want to like have it be a piece of crap, but brand new Toyota Corolla, brand new Toyota Camrys, nothing's wrong with that. That actually is peak happiness. By having a Porsche, and I can tell you this from personal experience, yeah, you get some benefits. It's more fun to drive, it's more sporty, you get more looks, it's more luxurious, it's more, high class, but you also get so many headaches with it. And imagine now buying a brand new Porsche Cayenne for like $120,000. Even if you can afford it, that means you're either working a more stressful job, you're working more hours, you're running, a business, which is always high risk, high reward. Like you're sacrificing something to be able to drive that nice car. And it doesn't actually add to happiness. I think happiness is knowing that, your basic needs are taken care of and you have a little bit extra to take care of others. You can treat your friends out sometimes, you can treat yourself, on a trip or a little vacation, not to impress anyone else. Nothing that everyone's like, oh my God, you stayed at that hotel, you ate at that place, you have that, you have that boat, you have that whatever. But just to be able to impress yourself, you're like, you know what? I deserve this. I'm having a good time. I'm camping, I'm fishing, I'm seeing Paris, on a budget, I'm not staying, I don't have a view of the Eiffel Tower, but I can take the train and go see the Eiffel Tower. I think that's the happy spot. So that's why I'm very happy making around this money. So for me, Toyota Corolla money, I'm 100% happy. And having the nest egg of retirement, knowing that when I do retire and I'm not working anymore, that I'll still have money coming in, it really takes a lot of pressure off of me, because I never want to be in a situation where me, my future, family ever struggles. Justin says, I often think about your winter you spent in Ukraine a few years back. It felt like the most intense period of your YouTube career. Respect. I hope you're getting to see that experience more now. You've done so much for Ukraine. Thank you very much. 2 years ago, that first winter, after Ukraine was attacked, so November, December 2022, I chose to stay in Ukraine because I wanted to be in solidarity with the people here. I knew that we would have attacks, we would have no power, we'd be in the cold. I'd wake up every day and have to check, do we have running water? Do we have electricity? Do we have internet? And it sucked. It was really terrible. But I felt like it was a very important time to be there. First, to show what's happening, to drum up support for Western aid, but also to show Ukrainians that the whole world hasn't abandoned them. Last year, I decided for my mental and physical health, I couldn't stay. So I went to Thailand. And ironically, last winter was actually very easy. There was no blackouts. There weren't that many attacks. So, it's one of those things where I feel like the most important work was done that very first year. I've now raised well over $100,000 to help Ukraine. And actually, right now, I'm having another campaign and a fundraiser that I launched with Mercado Media, Andrew, and also Kozak Gundi, both friends of mine. And we're doing a 3 Dragons campaign, inspired by the fire, spitting drones. Unfortunately, we can't actually, donate these fire spitting drones. I think that'll be moving like arms, but we are going to be getting normal drones as well as trucks, NAFO trucks. So this is going to be my second campaign with NAFO. Thank you so much to everyone who donated to the first campaign, because you made this truck happen. It's on the front lines fighting. I don't have that many updates on it now, but I know it's done its job. And these trucks are unfortunately disposable. That's why we buy used trucks. We fix them up. We camouflage them. We add night vision to them. We put another set of tires in the back, and we try to get them to do their job and survive as long as possible. But really, what's most important is to help the defenders do their job, as well as save their butt so they can get out as well. So a lot of the times they're being used for medical evac or for scouting, things like that. We're not using it to go into battle to, storm the front like Z units or something that they do on their scooters or ATVs. These are more for support, but these are very necessary, because without them, people literally have to carry it on their backs, or they have to drive a vehicle that may break down. And I've had friends who have had their lives in danger because their crappy vehicle broke down and they got stuck, wasn't 4x4 or just wasn't maintained very well. This is what I really like about the NAFO trucks. This is why they cost about, 20 grand a piece now. Is first, there's fewer and fewer used trucks to buy in Europe. But second, they're just adding more to it and they're just making them nicer to be able to defend against things like drone attacks. Each of them have a drone jammer now on there. So they're really, really cool. And this time, the unit that's going to be getting these trucks and the drones are actually personal friends of mine.
Greetings to the NAFA community, 69th Sniffing Brigade and Johnny FD and Mercado Media. We, the soldiers of the International Legion under Gore, are requesting the help in obtaining 6 vehicles for use on the frontline operations. We're also requesting help with supplying drones by our drone team to help them with destroying the occupier in the occupied regions. Slava Ukraini.
Kozak Gundi, you may know him as Aiden. He is British, and he was watching my videos while in a trench defending Donetsk back in, even before 2022. When this war kicked off, he said he was watching my videos like between shelling just to get an update what's happening in Kyiv, because there was no other information. That's actually how we met. Is he unfortunately got captured while defending Mariupol in the Azovstal plant, and he somehow survived, got exchanged. We met for lunch or dinner or something in Kyiv, and
we're here in Avdiivka, just leaving.
Now he's back, fighting again, and he's helping, and him with another good friend of mine. I don't know if he wants to be named, but he's in this video here. They're volunteer. This is a volunteer foreign unit. Everybody here doesn't need to be there. No one here is doing it for the money. Trust me, it's not very good, and all of them are just doing it for the right reasons, because they want to be on the right side of history, because they want to save and defend Ukraine. And the least we can do is make sure they have transportation. So I'm very, very honored and proud to be part of this campaign. We've already raised now over $12,000 in a big part thanks to something called the Toonies, which I actually had never heard of until 2 days ago. But the Toonies, they are a Twitter group, kind of like NAFO, where every Tuesday and I think every Friday or something, they just get people together and say, can you please donate a toonie, which is $2 Canadian, which is $2 US, whatever it is. And all their campaigns are vetted. They only work with people who actually deliver, that have a good track record. So NAFO 69th, it's been around now. We delivered over, I think, 300 or 400 vehicles now. It's hard to keep track, but they know that the unit's legit, that the organization is legit. So they use their influence on Twitter, and they just boost, and it was incredible watching people donate. I mean, unfortunately, it's not as big as like Jake Bro's campaign where he reached $1 million, but if we can get these 3 vehicles funded, I'll be so happy. So thank you so much. If you want to donate even $2 to the campaign, if you want to donate more, you can get the cool patch. But I hope to get this done before December when I make my next trip. That way I can actually drive the vehicle and hand it off for you guys. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for everyone who has been supporting. I hope you enjoyed the Argentine series. In the very next video, it's going to be me leaving Argentina, and you can see the start of my difficult journey back to Ukraine. So adios, muchas gracias. Thank you to Visit Buenos Aires for hosting me for this cool book collection, as well as just taking me out, show me around. Obviously, like, nothing I say about Buenos Aires is paid for. Like, they didn't give me any money or anything, but they did show me around, gave me this cool mate cup, and it's been a really good experience. So thank you so much to Visit Buenos Aires, to Nomads BA. I hope some of you end up checking it out. If you do, let me know in the comments below, and see you guys next one. Ciao.